thing of resuming recording so that if any of you guys want an actual copy of this, we will be emailing a video out from it so you can refer back to it as well as the slides. So just by attending, you automatically get that benefit. So don't worry, you don't have to do anything. We'll run through it tonight, shoot it out to you guys tomorrow so that you can spread the goal setting word as quickly as humanly possible. So Dave, if you could do me a great favor and just let me know when it's 12:02, I would be forever in your debt.
Sorry, I think I froze. Already having technical difficulties. What'd you say?
I said, if you can let me know when it's 12:02 so we can get started, that would be awesome.
I can. We're at 12:01 and change.
The final countdown. I know, we're such dorks. Maybe it makes us endearing.
I hope so. Makes us something.
Doesn't it now?
All right, we must be getting close.
Well, we're at 45 attendees, so we can officially mock and shame anyone who's later than 12:02, in my opinion.
All right, 12:02.
All right.
We're there.
Well, not to further delay, and as we hit officially 45 viewers right now, and probably many more in Facebook Nation, this is Kelly Donahue-Piro and Dave Seekman from Agency of Performance Partners and Agency Appeal. Drum roll, please. And we're really excited to talk to you guys today. It's such a great time of year. Not only is fall my favorite time of year because you get to wear sweaters, but also it's such a great time of year to think about what's been going on this year, what are we doing next year, and it's the time of the year that all business owners really be thinking about it. So Dave and I thought it'd be great to get to the IAOA group as agency owners and stop for a minute, spend some time with you guys on how to really end this year so it's maximum, because it's still not over yet. We still have 2.5 months officially, and really get planning for next year. So we're going to kind of break it down. Feel free to hit the chat button if you have any questions. We'll do our best to take some breaks. Don't leave your questions till the end. We will have some time, but pop open your chats and we'll stop and take a few chats along the way. But really excited to see all you guys here today. Excited to see agency owners engaging in really making those plans. So here's kind of our agenda for today. First of all, we're going to talk about how the year's not over. So don't give up on your goals. If you're falling short, if you're behind, it doesn't mean that it's time to throw in the towel to next year. It means it's time to buckle down and do the best that you can. Then we're going to talk a little bit about our plans for next year. You know, what are we really moving towards? What's reasonable? What's efficient? Also, too, something I think is important, Dave, and I'm sure you do too, but how do we plan for speed bumps? So we often see agencies not make goals, not plan, because we don't know when the things are going to happen. When somebody's going to go on maternity leave, or somebody quits, or something happens, a carrier changes things. So we often fly by the seat of our pants, but I want to build a plan for next year that includes some of those variables. And, you know, Dave, I'm sure you're pretty passionate about that too. Am I right? Did I lose you, Dave?
I'm back.
Can you hear me?
I can. Sorry.
That's okay. But what we're going to go do is get our conclusions, and then we're going to make a very special announcement just to our IAOA family. You're going to hear it first. So stick with us till the end so you get the special super announcement. All right. So I'm going to kick it off here with ending 2018 strong. It's something that I see a lot of agencies either they give up till next year, or they're like diving down deep and saying, I'm still going to stay on track. So the first thing is, if you kind of go into our chat section, we're going to open up a little poll here, and it's going to take me to a whole other page. We're not going to open a poll because I don't want to mess with the technology since I'm having some issues. Just use the chat for a second, guys. Put in there, are you on track with the goal that you set for January 1st of 2018? And just chat us and say, yes, no, off track, I didn't make a plan, that's why I'm here. Let us know how you're feeling. Because if you are on track, what a great feeling it is today, right? You've been diligent in tracking and motivating your team. You've set a great plan and you've successfully stuck to it. Let's be honest, anything can always improve, right? But you really should be proud of your accomplishments. So we're going to give you a big round of applause. right? Now, Dave, let's talk, what happens if somebody's not on track?
So I was just going to say, I think we're split about a third, either no track, not on track, or on track. So it's right about everything, a little bit of everything. But to me, for those that are not on track, I think you said it. The year is not over, right? We still have what comes down to like 20% left in the year. So we don't want to give up. And what we can do is make a good short-term plan for the rest of the 2.5 months that we still have left here. I would say even for all of those people who didn't have a plan, create a simplified plan for the next 2.5 months and say, okay, this is going to be kind of our testing ground to see if we can set a plan, stick to the plan, tweak the plan, identify our goals and all of those things.
Yeah, we have this comment here at APP, which is, are we too busy to be better? So you can't be too busy to be better. We can't say something's going to change next week. Oh, next week I'm going to get to it. Like, write down 3 bullet points right now. And if you want, you can even chat them to us for accountability, because we will follow up with you on them. But I think that it's so important. It's like, what do you always say? Say you want to start, eating healthier next year. Well, the best thing you could do right now is 2 days a week, eat healthier now and ease yourself into it, versus like call it like the cold turkey. We're just going to jump into the deep end, which I also believe is a strategy. But, there's no sense of just even putting some mini milestones just to keep your head going. Because how easy is it to get distracted, by the way, at the holidays? It's like so easy. I eat too many Christmas cookies. I drink too much wine. And all of a sudden, all the goals are off track, right?
Yeah, and I think people do the same thing in their professional life, right? Where they go, okay, it's November 15th, year's over, right? Well, now the holidays are here. And it's like, well, it's still, you still have 6 more weeks of the year left. Like, and I realize that you might not be able to push as hard between people being out, having a harder time getting your clients to engage because they are focused on other things. But every time of year, something is going on. It's summer, it's this vacation, there's this coming up, it's my birthday month for Kelly's birthday next month. There's always something going on. I know, I'm 2 weeks early for your even birthday month. But there's always something going on. There's always an excuse. I think it's funny when I was working with agents over the summer, like, well, summer's tough. And I'm like, okay. And then it's, well, it's back to school. And then I know that Thanksgiving's coming. So it's like, is there only 2 months a year that we work, or do we just do it the best with what we have and kind of push forward to the end of the year?
Well, and one comment kind of came through is like, hey, we don't have an exact plan, but we're doing great. And I would encourage you to say, hey, this is the best time to make a plan because the ball's rolling. So much harder when things aren't great to make a plan to get back out of it. But it's really helpful, and we're going to talk about that next too, about how the team loves to understand what a good job looks like, and a plan and goals help your entire office understand what a good job is. A good job is not a feeling, like I feel things are going well. I've had those feelings, and the next minute something happens, and you're not prepared for it, and you're not on track. So doing well means that this too shall pass. Having a plan and goals means that you have strategies to support those.
Yeah, and I think when I hear somebody say they're doing great, it's awesome, because that gives us some basis for any types of goals or metrics we're going to implement. Hey, we know when we're doing well, here are the numbers that we have. Let's implement our plan and our goals for the next 2 months next year that reflect what we know we're doing strong.
Absolutely. So let's take out our 2018 plan, find it on your computer, pull it out of your desk, look around and be like, I didn't make one, but take a look at it first. After this webinar, what did you accomplish? And give yourself a huge thumbs up. That means that there was progress. You did what you said you were going to do. You executed on your strategy. Then take a look and say, let's put the list. What are things that are still outstanding? What are things we didn't accomplish that were on the list? And also to look at what are things that you did accomplish that you didn't plan for. Maybe you weren't anticipating getting a new server. Maybe you weren't anticipating hiring a marketing person, but the right person fell in your lap. Maybe, you weren't anticipating having to do some things, but you did them and got through it. You should also give yourself a huge, bones it for that too, because that's what being an entrepreneur is. It means you're navigating the challenges. So that's what we're talking about too as we get through this webinar. Is like you have to plan for those things, because if you make this perfect plan for 365 days, you're lucky if you hit it 50% of the time. You know, you have to give your plan flexibility. Then let's get that list. What's off track? What do we need to focus on now that we've got 2.5 months that we can tackle? And maybe you should be thinking to yourself, if you're sitting there like, Kelly, I don't have a plan, I don't have a list. Well, doggone it, that's why you're here, and we're going to get you one for next year, right? But not having a plan means you're going into the year without a roadmap. You're not sure how to budget, where to spend your money, where to develop your people. And what that means is oftentimes you're sort of ping-ponging around to whatever is front and center of your mind as an entrepreneur versus what are the long-term things that we need to do? What is the real strategy that we have? We're sort of just coming top-of-mind awareness, which if you think about it is probably one of the things that frustrates you sometimes about your team. As opposed to thinking about those renewals 90 days ahead, it's this one's burning and on fire, I'm going to focus on this one. Well, you as the leader and you as the entrepreneur need to be better about that long-term future, about what you want to accomplish, clearly communicating it so that you're doing the things that are going to benefit you next October and January, not just kind of whatever comes at you. And I think that that's a skill set that over time, you have to have that training and that discipline to really put your time and energy into those things that don't give you necessarily an immediate payback. Dave, before I switch slides, do you have anything to add to that?
No, you covered it.
Oh, look at that. All right.
Although
so
actually, I take it back. I do have one thing.
Oh, now
Sorry.
we gotta do it. Now
well, no, I was looking at this comment that said off track, but the plan was kind of sketchy anyway. So I think it's one of those things when we develop the plan, we have to make sure that it's, you know, there's stretch goals, but they're achievable. You know, all of those things that, you know, where we're actually putting some thought into it, not just throwing something against the wall and then saying we hit it or we didn't hit it. So I appreciate that comment, Patrick. I think the focus is to build a plan that we feel comfortable with, not that, you know, 10 months from now we're going to say, yeah, it wasn't a good idea. You know, we didn't build it. We didn't design it well to begin with.
Well, I was just at an agency last night, actually, and we were working on setting their next 6-month goals, and all of them were super vague. It was like, we want to move towards getting on Epic. I'm like, well, how do you quantify that? How do you break that down? You have to kind of put that exercise together. So for your projects that are on the didn't get to list this year, the first thing that you want to do is say, hey, why didn't I get through this stuff? Maybe something happened, time, expertise. But I've seen so many agency owners kind of circle the drain because they're not sure. So look for qualified vendors you can partner with to help accomplish this goal. Say you wanted to get branding done, a new website. Like, start today. Build the list of the people you need to contact. Maybe you wanted to get sales training and, you know, just call us and we'll handle it all. But whatever that list is, changing phone systems, the projects list, not necessarily a sales goal or a department goal, but literally come down to the things that you know you want to get through this year. Start making those phone calls. IAOA has a great vendor network. On their website, you can go to it and find all the IAOA vendors. If you support IAOA, go there first. These are people you're going to see that other IAOA members are using. Makes it a lot easier to make a decision. And you'll see a lot of us in Vegas in January if you're going to be there. So hopefully you are. We'll have a booth to stop by and say hello. And then start by prioritizing your list of the things you want to accomplish. What's the biggest value to the agency? That should be the first thing that you tackle. Don't worry about the, you know, all the other stuff, but what's the biggest value? Because if you can pick up more time, efficiency, better revenue generation, all of it will take care of itself. What's going to take you the most amount of time or least amount of time to finish? And then look at the budget. And then you can say, okay, now that I have all these details, this is what I have to move forward on this year. And it's okay if you have to bump some things to next year, but I think you want to start that process, right, of moving forward, moving in that direction so that there is progress. It's not something that you just wait and clump till next year. So hopefully we see you all in Vegas. We'd love to say hello. So biggest thing, start calling the vendors today. Get it on the calendar to tackle. If you need to sign them off, do it now. Identify which ones clearly the projects you're not going to get to this year and determine if they're even a good fit for next year. I know when we get a lot of different opinions, and you know that's what IAOA is. It's a group of all these agents doing amazing things. You can't do it all at once. You can't drink from a fire hose. You can't eat an elephant more than one bite at a time. Figure out what your plan is going to be for the rest of the year and move forward. And then really go forth and make a decision. I mean, I think one of the things that sometimes happens to us all is we get so much information and that we just sort of shut down. And instead of doing something, we end up doing nothing, and it ends up on that to-do list. I don't know, Dave, do you have any experience in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the classic inaction is the death of progress, right? We get comfortable with the status quo. We get overwhelmed with the options. We know what we're working with doesn't change, but we get into this, I guess it's kind of the devil you know versus the devil you don't mentality. And it just seems so much easier to stick with the status quo. Whereas ultimately, if we change something that isn't working, what's the worst that happens? It still isn't working. But at least now we've gained the knowledge, and we can kind of pick ourselves up and continue to move forward. And I think your point is, don't try to drink it all at once. Don't try to do it all at once. Don't try once. Just pick out 2 or 3 things that you think are going to work and move forward with them.
Right, because you can't do this, right? You know, we've all made a bad business decision. I think that's the power of IAOA, is that you have this network of people that have been there, done that, that you can go forward with. So, you know, whatever you're thinking, somebody's been in your shoes before, made the decision, and it was either positive or negative. So use the group to vet ideas off of, but don't use it to say indecision. And I think so much of the indecision comes into how much time, how much buy-in am I going to get from my team? And the reality is, I want to tell everybody on this webinar, you are an agency owner. That is why you are part of IAOA. You get to call the shot. You know, I spoke to a new prospect yesterday, and he told me that he'd like the agency to go paperless, but there's a couple people that just will never do it. And, you know, of course, I'm a little bit more direct in those situations than a lot of people, and I just said, who owns the agency? How are you going to tell them how they're going to run their business? They might not want to, but the world will not stop moving if we take away paper. Just like the world will not stop moving if we work the quote over the phone. The world will not stop moving if we call everybody at renewal, which is some of our key services that we offer. But don't go through it. And this is what I call any change. And this is why we stop and we don't make decisions. Okay. And I want everyone to write this down somewhere. You have to outlast the suck. Okay. Change sucks. There's 30 to 45 days where it's painful, sloppy, inconvenient, inconsistent. You're learning something new. Imagine you start going to the gym for the first time in 5 years. What are those first 30 days? They're horrible. You're literally downing Advil as if it's M&Ms. But the point is that 30 days later, what do you feel? Amazing. Because the things we have to do to live our best lives ever, to live our best agency ever, typically come with just smooth sailing. They're difficult to do and will set you out from the competition because they are difficult. So write it down. Let everybody know we have to outlast the suck. And when we outlast the suck, we'll get to a much better place. So let's talk now about any revenue goals that are off track. So sales goals. The first step to turn this around to get to the end of the year is you got to figure out what that looks like. I call this the standing on the scale. If you want to lose weight, you have to stand on the scale, find out where it is. And some of it might be like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Some of it might be like, oh, Molly, we got a lot of work to do. It doesn't matter whether you decide to keep your head in the sand or you decide to know the number. That number still exists out there in the universe. The difference is when you know it, you can do something about it. And then you got to break down these goals into bite-sized pieces. You know, a lot of times we think about this lofty number. And I always like to think the fun-sized candies for Halloween, okay? You will never see me eat a full candy bar. I just think it's like too much sugar. It's disgusting. I, however, can dance down fistfuls of mini Snickers. like they're going out of style. I probably eat 2 candy bars with the fun-sized Snickers. It's all just how you perceive it, right? So break down the goals into the fun-sized, bite-sized Halloween candies that get us all into the sugar mode, right? Think about it by person, by month, by week, by day. And the big thing is if you're trying to get your team buy-in to get those revenue goals on track, you just can't drop the bomb on your team. And we've seen it a million times. It's like the cowboy. I'm going to come into my team meeting and we're going to say, we're off track. We have to do this. We have to sell more. This is what we got to do. Go do it. And everybody goes back to their desk and shrinks down like this big and says, well, how do we do that? you can't just say we need to sell more without having a specific plan of attack that's going to get you to where you want to be. So in order to really get there, you as the leader have to take this very personally and responsibly, right? I can't just go and say, team, Dave, we need to get more clients in the door. And without saying, and here's how we're going to do it. You know, Noreen on our team, we're going to up it so that she's calling more agents. We've got 3 new marketing campaigns we're going to launch. We're going to these 3 events. You know, you need to structure it for people. Dave, have you seen any of that stuff go on in agencies ever?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's the classic, someone goes to a training day or they come back from meeting with their accountant and it's like they just want to dive into like, we're going to improve. And I think you're right. I think the teams, for the most part, are more than willing to help contribute to hitting goals, improving, being part of that change. But they really need the leader to help drive the train. It can't just be them kind of pushing forward or interpreting what needs to happen and kind of making it up on their own. Because then they'll go into 10 different directions of either do nothing or go in 10 different directions as to what they think they need to do. And neither one of those is a good strategy.
I also think too, and I'm a firm believer of this, and it's a hard thing to do when you're a business owner. The number one thing you need to do when your numbers are down and you're not generating enough opportunities is you have to spend more on marketing. So even though the revenue's not coming in, you have to grit your teeth, cut things where you have to, and spend more to get that engine going again. As opposed to, we see a lot of agencies that they coil right on back, like revenue's down, can't spend any money, can't spend any money. I'm encouraging you to find the money, find the stuff that you can cut out, find the lunches you can cut out, whatever it is, and instead invest that money into the things that are going to make you money. Because when you're selling insurance, you always sell more when there's a good pattern. When you're in that deficit, it's real hard to kind of come back up. So some things that you can do that. Work on your agency brand. My sister company, Agency Appeal, that I own, amazing. I mean, building a fresh, modern brand, you cannot have a logo that is Times New Roman. You need to have something fresh and exciting, something that gets people's attention. Guys, it's Halloween. You know what the top 3 adult costumes will be this year? Jake from State Farm, Flo, Mayhem. If you told my 5-year-old self that I might grow up and be an adult insurance agent for Halloween, I probably would have kicked you in the shin and told you were stupid. Like, we have to understand that our brand and our image and being fresh and modern, that's not how people think of independent agents. We have to stick out. Think about email campaigns. What a great low-cost way to get something started. Dump all your unsold quotes, lost customers, even current customers, and just start nurturing them. That doesn't take much more than setting up MailChimp, or there's even better, more advanced tools we can talk about. But if you're not doing anything, this takes 15 to 20 minutes max, and then you can go for it. Facebook ads, CRM tools, purchase leads, networking events. These are all things that can help put that revenue back to where you want it to be. And then also think about training. I was at an agency this morning that had 69 quotes over the past, let's just call it 2 months, and sold 13 policies. So do they need more leads, or do they need better sales training? That's why I was there, because they needed more sales training. They had the opportunities, they needed to convert them. And so when you're really looking at some of that stuff, you have to think about, what are the numbers and what do I need? Also think about retention. We have agencies that are easily at 94, 95% retention that have been in business for 20 to 30 years. Now, retention is real easy to drive when you're newer, harder to drive as time goes on, but they're doing that by being proactive, and that's a program we offer too. Or just think about a great motivational training day, getting everybody psyched, getting everybody pumped. It's another service we offer. I was just out at Vonda Copeland's office. I know she's on this webinar. We had a great time on Columbus Day with her team and got everyone super psyched. So these are things that you can do to get everybody back on track. And then also think about incentives. And when you get this webinar, there's a link to some of our blogs on incentive plans. But I'll tell you what, with incentives, people are all working harder. And, Dave, I'd love to hear your input on it. I'm a big believer of incentives for 2 reasons. One, and it's the number one biggest reason, people in insurance agencies love recognition. It's like we're so void of hearing thank you from our customers, things like that, that when they get recognized, people bloom like a flower. The second half of that is the monetary side. So Dave, what kind of incentive programs have you seen work really well in agencies?
So the first one is obviously money. That's kind of a quick and easy one. But I think what we all recognize is sometimes we put in financial incentives and they don't do anything because there's no, that's not actually the motivating factor for a lot of frontline staff. They're really looking, I think, as the recognition as a much more I think financial incentives are great, whether they're weekly, monthly bonuses based on sales, based on retention figures, based on cross-selling opportunities generated, saved clients, whatever you want it to be. I do think, to your point, you need to tie those financial incentives to recognition. So it's not just about sliding that money into somebody's paycheck. It's about having a conversation with them about how they did one-on-one if they're that type of person, or like most people, they want it to be announced. They want people to know how good of a job they did. But I think there's all kinds of things that you can do. Some cost money. You can do lunches. People love food. It's probably the number 2 motivating factor that I've seen is to feed people, whether it's, bringing lunch in or having an offsite where you go out to dinner, go out to drink, something like that. Offsites, speaking of offsites, are another great way. Everybody has kind of something cool and fun around, whether it's, we have an F1 racing up here. I don't know if you saw, Kelly, the drunken axe throwing bar is now open.
I know.
So that is like
Dave
a great event.
I
know they have all the instruments. I want to go drunken axe throwing. I'm not going to lie. I want to do it. So I think events like that, sporting events, anything that you want to do that's going to bring the team together. And then sneakily, I worked for an agency 10 years ago. We were really struggling to get people to the service staff to identify cross-sell opportunities and send them over to the sales staff. We tried a number of different things. The one thing that worked the best, jeans day, a dress down day. The one incentive, or one of the very few incentives that you can do that doesn't even cost you a dime, can be a huge motivating factor. Number one, it's kind of less pressure on them. They don't contributing something that's just a jeans day. Number two, they love it. I hear this all the time from women. It's just 10 times easier for them to be able to throw on jeans and a sweater than to have to get dressed up. And again, it all comes back to recognition. It's just this idea that we contributed to something together. The actual incentive itself is not as important as being able to say, hey, we get to wear jeans on Friday or Thursday if you already do a dress down.
So here's the good news, Dave. If you can book 3 new clients from this webinar by December 31st, we will go drunken axe throwing. Okay.
I thought you were going to say we will have a dress down day. I was like, I don't think that one's going to work for me, Kel.
So everyone on here knows. So if anybody's interested in learning more about what we do, we will post pictures. But one other thing I think is super cool. One other thing I think is a great one this time of year especially is, what if you hit a goal, you take the day after Thanksgiving off, or you close early the day before Thanksgiving, or, you use the Christmas holidays and New Year's holidays and say, hey, we will close at XYZ time if we hit a goal. Those are so simple. A lot of agencies do it either way, but now you can quantify it. And I'll tell you, a lot of that frontline staff would love to be home with their families the day after Thanksgiving, or would love to know that they can leave work at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock Christmas Eve to get some things done for their family. Play on their playing field. Don't always assume it's the stuff that you would want, it's the money. Really get down to the nitty gritty of what's important to them.
You can also, I'll end it with this, you can also ask them, right? They might have some ideas of what they want and what they'd be looking for. So have a discussion with your staff about what they'd like and what would incent them. They'll be pretty honest and open with you for the most part.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, so you're up next on building a strong plan for the next year.
Yeah, so I love October for a number of the reasons that Kelly mentioned, but also because this is kind of our first opportunity to say, okay, what about next year? Not only where are we going to land this year, what do we still want to push on for this year? but what is next year going to look like for us? So the way we break this down is pretty simple. You're going to have 3 goals. You're going to have a sales goal, a retention goal, and then 4 large projects that you want to push, which is 1 per quarter. So now, obviously, there are some things we're going to do, like an agency management system change that might not be able to fit into a quarter. But if we're going to do a brand guide, or we want to do specific training, or there's some kind of email marketing system that we want to implement, whatever it is, something that we know is going to improve the agency that doesn't fit into our sales or our service.
Or I think something that's like that stuff that's like just hanging around, right? Like, oh, I can't get enough email addresses. I can't get my team to do video proposals. Like, make this like just one focus, as opposed to having the focus be on 25 things. Be like, for the next 90 days, here's where our head's at.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw one in there too, Dave.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to throw one in there. I mean, I think for agencies that have been in existence for quite some time, getting people on EFT has to be the number one thing, because it's going to stop a lot of those incoming billing questions, taking payments over the phone, so that your team does free up that time to go ahead and do some of the things you really want to get them to do.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the next slide, Dave.
Yes, please. So setting a sales goal. So it is not an arbitrary number. It's backed by facts. So, you know, for the person who said that they're doing great, to me, again, this is the perfect time to say, okay, what does a good month look like? Is it consistent? Is July look the same as it does for April? Let's look back at our last year, our last 2 years, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, however far back you want to look, and say, here's what we've done, and here's what we're doing differently that I think will actually improve on these numbers year over year. So it's not just an arbitrary number. It's not just saying, hey, I want to grow by $500,000 next year. What do I need to do to get there? You want to go the other way. You want to see what your history is and then say, okay, this is what's likely. Now, if you want to grow by $500,000 and you're short of that, then okay, what makes sense to tweak here in order to drive to that number? Again, start by reviewing what was sold this year, last year. To me, the big things here are, and Kelly and I have this discussion the beginning of every month, and it's great to do as year-end planning as well as monthly planning, which are these 2 questions. What worked well last month and what didn't go so well last month? Because those are the 2 things that you want to say, hey, we're going to continue to do this. We're going to stay on this. This isn't going to change for this month or for this year, next year. And these things didn't work. And that could be something along the lines of, or a marketing effort, somewhere you spent money, didn't produce results. Or it could be more self-reflective. It could be more, I didn't do this well last year. I didn't do this well last month. This is where I need to improve. And that could just be me stepping up, or it could be I need some training or I need some assistance here. And then certainly the marketing strategies. Where are we going to focus our marketing efforts? Where can we increase our spend in marketing? Where are there areas that we're spending money that isn't working? And taking a hard look at whether or not they just need to be tweaked and changed, or if we need to go into a whole new direction because this strategy just isn't working last year at all. And then, you know, one way to do it is to determine that percentage increase, whether it's, you know, I want to grow double digits, I want to increase policy count, client count, premium revenue, whatever it is. You want to take your increase and basically simplify it down so that especially when you're having a conversation with the staff, when you're trying to roll this out to them, that you're having very simplified conversations with them about what you're trying to accomplish, and then be able to break that down into what you're looking for from them. Because it's hard for them to understand yearly, high-level financials. Really what they want to know is, what do I need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to contribute to the overall plan?
And I think Dave, 2 things on this slide. Yeah, 2 things on this slide. I think if you're just starting out, this is like the first time you're really creating these goals. You know, you can read about this person had 15% growth, 25% growth. Keep it simple. Like, you can have your goal and have a stretch goal. I mean, the best thing that you can do is hit a goal that you set. But I think sometimes people kind of bite off more than they can chew, and then automatically we don't hit it and we feel deflated, defeated, and we give up on our goal. And then the big question I have for you that I get a lot, because I'll bring sales goals up to agencies and people get really uncomfortable, especially if they haven't had them. They're like, "Ooh, I hear ya, but I'm not convinced." How often do you think people think sales goal is the same thing as a quota?
For anyone who's never set a sales goal, I would say it's a very high percentage of them that are looking at the sales goal as a sales quota. And the difference is really, a goal is what we're trying to hit. This is what we're trying to achieve. I'm not saying there's no accountability, but the difference between a goal and a quota to me is, if you didn't hit a quota, there's significant accountability that comes along to that. That is 3 strikes and you're out, you're not performing well. That is those serious HR conversations. Goals are more to keep us on track, to make sure that we are building our business where we want to get to. So again, I'm not saying that there's no accountability, but one of my favorite things that I've heard is, when we hit our goal, we're going to get our incentive. We're going to go out to lunch. We're going to go throw out. If we don't hit the goal, what then comes back around? If we don't hit the goal, we want to improve our skill set. So maybe if we don't hit the goal, we're going to take some additional time to do training. It just helps us drive the direction of the agency. It's not a penalty for not hitting the goal, but if we don't hit the goal, we need to improve. Again, ask our questions. What didn't work well? Where can we, where should we do some additional training? So it drives the direction of the day-to-day operation based on whether or not we are hitting or not hitting our goals.
And I think if every agency just had that meeting once a month, what worked this month, what didn't work, we start the dialogue versus the do this or else. We need to have that dialogue that builds the plan, that builds the strategy.
Absolutely. So again, same thing that we were talking about before, break down the sales goals by bite-sized chunks. We're not trying to sell, $1 million next year. That's so big and arbitrary. It's way too hard. What departments are that coming from? What are we looking for each individual to contribute on a monthly, weekly basis? If I know as a salesperson that I have to contribute, $20,000 in premium a week, then I just know that if I hit that number, that rolls up. As long as everyone's doing their job, we get there. It really is amazing how attainable, a 20,000 a week number looks versus $1 million a year.
Think of the many Halloween candies. Because you don't want to feel like this.
So, I actually set than retention goals, because it's a little easier to break down the dollar amounts and policy counts associated with the sales goal. But so we can jump into retention goal setting now. Do you want to take the retention one?
Sure. So I think setting a retention goal should be easy, but it all has to do on the quality of your data. So the great thing about being an independent agent is we have choice. The bad thing is that the carrier downloads cancellation and the new one's a new business, and we need to do some data cleanup. However, it's incredibly important to do that because, one, you did want to go after a last policy list. You have a bunch of rewrites in there. Really, it's kind of like 30 seconds of attention can make things really squeaky clean. We just need people to be all over coding those things correctly. And if anybody wants to know, we've got it down pat in every management system. So this is something we can help with. But you really need to make sure that, your policies as to what is rewrite, reinstatement, and cancellation. So we always get in this debate. Someone sold their home, they bought a new home. It's a new policy number, maybe even a new company. Is that new business, or is that a rewrite? To me, it's new. It's a rewrite, but every agency handles that differently. Also, too, if someone cancels for non-payment or is late payment lapses, at what point does it become new business? So you need to have those clearly defined so you can hone down on that number. And then we have to stick to it and clean up our data every single month. With our clients, we routinely, it's like, hey, you got to clean them up. And then people want to see the true number. Now, the debate I always get into, and there's some agencies that say that will fight me to the end of the earth on it. I think if someone moves, if someone passes away, that still goes into your retention rent number as a negative, as a cancellation. The agency has to make up that premium. That is why no agency expects 100% retention rate. And a lot of times agencies who maybe aren't used to setting goals, they feel like, well, it wasn't in their control if someone passes away. It wasn't in their control if they move down to Florida for retirement. What it is it's meant to say we have to make up that revenue. And so I really encourage agencies to not get into that game of only what we can control, because we can play that game to the nth of the earth of what we can control, right? If I sold a classic car, is it your fault? No, but we still have to make up that premium. So you have to be really diligent on it, but when you are, you get some really great metrics on that. And once you have the number, you have to share it. People deserve to know where they are as a retention rate, both on premium and policy count. And I can't go into specifics here because we've got a lot to cover today, but like I said, we've got details on how to run this in almost every agency management system. But once you know your number, now you have to pick, how are we going to move that retention needle? I mean, it's insane. A 1 percentage point in retention does wonders for profitability. So think about it. Are we marketing to our current customers? Do we stay in touch with them? Do we send them birthday cards? Do we send them happy Halloween emails? What are we doing to make sure that we're front and center? Are we cross-selling or account rounding to make sure we're shoring up that retention as much as possible? And then also too, really stopping for a second and saying, could we let go of the high service, low revenue accounts that take up a lot of our time? I had the pleasure of meeting an agency in Long Island, and what they would do is every year on January 1st, they would allow each service person to fire 3 clients. They could pick any 3. The management had the final decision, but they could pick any 3 clients that they just felt were just too difficult to deal with. And I'll tell you what, the morale of that office was amazing. It got a little crazy because it was almost like picking the Super Bowl draft, the fantasy football draft. Like they'd all go out and have margaritas and say which clients we're going to fire. Got a little negative on that front. I didn't like that part, but really stopping and saying, are we spending our time in the wrong direction? And for a lot of agencies, it all just sneaks up on us, and we are. And then if you think about calling every client once a year, 1 renewal call a year, this is our Apex retention program, which is hugely successful, okay? Calling every client once a year bumps up your retention about 1 to 2 percentage points pretty quickly. And it reduces the inbound remarketing. It reduces a lot of the stress on the team. They have more stress to make the phone calls, but it's not the heated client. We call them spicy, the spicy client saying, hey, I need you. My rate went up. What are you going to do about it? 3 days before renewal. And now we have time to be prepared and plan. So if you want to boost your retention, like these are the things that are the lowest hanging easy fruit for the agency to tackle. Dave, anything you want to add to that?
The other thing that I love about the renewal calls is it doesn't just necessarily eliminate the spiciness at renewal. It eliminates it throughout the year, right? Because now I have a better relationship. So I say this all the time. I remember when I was working in agencies, we would get phone calls because the person would be like, why didn't you show up? They didn't literally mean you, but they just didn't know the difference between the agent and the adjuster. It was that complicated in their head as to who's the agent, who's in claims, who's doing this. So instead of getting a phone inspection, look at my car, whatever the case be, they're calling up and they're saying, hey, Kelly, can you help me? This person didn't show up. So it's much more collaborative and understanding and appreciative of what you do. So you get very few people that call upset about anything, and much more people that are just looking to your help, needing your advice, and how to solve a problem. They're looking to solve problems instead of just complain about situations.
I love that. And then it also helps with the sales goal, right? For account rounding, cross-selling, increasing coverage. Like it has a great effect on that side too.
Yeah.
So here's our preferred renewal calculation. You take the number of renewals minus the cancellation, free of rewrites and reinstatements over the number of renewals. So if we had 100 policies up for renewal, 10 left, we'd be at a 90% retention rate. And we actually like to run it monthly. Yeah, there's a little lag. You have to clean up your data. But if you run it monthly, you're going to have a much higher gauge. I know some people like to run it on 12-month rolling book of business. My bigger challenge on that front is if there's a problem, it's hidden in this vast number of metrics. So I like to see it every month, and then that helps motivate the team to keep moving forward. But we should be tracking it by policy, premium, revenue, and by department, because you will find personal lines and commercial lines definitely has different retention rates. So Dave, do you want to handle the project side of how to set goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about this a little bit when we went into this section, but every agency has a list of projects. I can't tell you the number of agents that I'm like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's on our list. And it's been there for 4 years, so I think it goes back to the idea of we have all of these things we're trying to do, so we end up doing none of them. So our advice is find the top 4 that you want to tackle that you haven't been able to get to. Set them up so that you're doing one every quarter. Get the incentives built into this as well. So as part of their incentive program, hitting milestones in the project or completing the project are certainly ways to get people to focus on them. Because the problem tends with projects is they sit on the principal's desk for a while. Then the principal says to somebody, go do this. But that person has their own job and their own day-to-day routine that they need to do. And when push comes to shove, I'm going to get my job done before I go do that project. And then push back on the, you'll lower pushback and negative feedback by focusing them on one thing and incenting them. So they're much more inclined to do it because it's not as disruptive because I'm doing one thing and I'm actually getting something if I accomplish it.
And I'd love for everyone to use the chat feature and make sure you do it to everybody, because you can just do it to panelists or everyone. Say, what are the projects that you want to tackle, so that we can get a great list of the things that are on agency's mind. So hop on over the chat. Based on this, what are you thinking? Like, what are the big rocks in the agency that you want to get nailed down? And send us some chats so we can get a good list going of the top projects. So let's now talk about speed bumps and incentives. Right? So this is sometimes how I feel like when you try to get things done and it's like the whole entire world is in the way, right? It's like, I can't deal. I have all the best intentions to spend today on my big rocks, but oh my goodness, I just can't get to it. I've been teasing Dave. We've been trying to shoot these sales videos for, 2 weeks now. And it's like, we're very blessed because there's a lot of productivity going on. But Dave, wouldn't you and I both love to get those off of our list?
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like we need to focus on it as the one project. So instead of waking up and saying I've got 20 things, just saying I'm going to do my sales videos today. Honestly, they take an hour to complete when you actually sit down and do them without any distractions or anything like that. And I find that we're talking about kind of higher level projects that are going to take months, but a lot of the things that we have on our plate are things that are going to take us a day, an hour, maybe a week to accomplish. And we just feel so much better when we're done with them.
Absolutely. And I think, went too fast. So speed bumps. Okay, guys, they're going to happen. Emergencies are going to happen. Speed bumps are going to happen. You can't plan yourself into non-existence, okay? So you can't create a plan that's too tight that it can't be flexible. Plan today. Like, one of the best things I ever learned was, here's our plan, and here's our super secret ninja plan in case we get off track. Because rather than stopping and be like, oh my gosh, we're off track. What are we going to do? We have to think about it. We have to try harder. And you lose valuable time. Instead, it says, hey, and we're going through this process right now. If we're off track with our sales goal, I'm going to commit right now. This is what we're going to do. We're going to double down our ad spend. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to hire a telemarketer. Like, get the plan written out. Know exactly who you're going to call. Know exactly the cost. Know exactly the time frame. And if you hit that speed bump, it's not crap. It's plan B. Let's get to it. Get back on track. Because I think we spend so much time learning that we're off track and then talking about how we get back on track that 2 months go by. And that's 2 valuable months, right? So plan right now will happen. How to address it, how you'll find it, and how you're going to adjust, because it's going to happen. Okay? In 365 days, if your whole plan goes amazing, I would be shocked. Wouldn't you, Dave?
Yeah, well, this reminds me of what we were talking about at the beginning. Even without speed bumps, or even without unanticipated speed bumps, there are built-in speed bumps. We know summer is going to come up. Christmas happens. There are speed bumps that we have to build in, and we do have to be flexible for the ones that aren't there. But we can't keep going with this. Well, this happened. You know, she went on maternity. She was sick. He sneezed. You know, all of these things that come up. We have to be able to react to them.
So let's just say we get into Q1, all the best plans are set, we're rolling. You know, we started our plan this year, so it wasn't just like, you know, jumping into the deep end of the pool and, oh crap, Dave, we are not on track. You know, what should an agency do if they get to the end of February and now we're significantly behind where we thought we wanted to be?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to address is why, right? So you start with looking back. How did we get to where we were? Is it, you know, is the marketing not working, or are salespeople not selling? Was there something more significant that happened in the agency? You know, there's a difference between a speed bump and a major
a detour.
Yeah, like a major detour, you know, something happening with family, or a weather event, or, you know, something that's like more legit than, you know, well, so-and-so was out sick for 3 days, you know. So you do have to so you do need to look back and account for, you know, why did you get to where you were, and what of those things did we do wrong? I hate to say it, like we were wrong. Like, I know people hate to admit it, but like, what did we do wrong, or what could we improve on, to use the more progressive term? What can we do differently in the next 10 months, or what should we have done differently? So I think it's a matter of saying that, and then kind of go. We are 2 months in, 1/6 of the way through the year. Is it possible to recover this? Or are we already at the point where we need to rebudget and reset our goals? What do you think?
I think also valuable would be looking back at what did you do last January and February, because there's some seasonality to things. And I know I've learned even on the retention program and in our sales programs, it's like, well, we didn't hit our goal, but the goal wasn't set correctly because we kind of did it generically over the whole year versus looking at, well, we sold 15% more than we did last January. We're doing great. You know, like the goal was maybe just a little offset. So it's like, it's really important to kind of go back and look and say, what's wrong with this? But then also to double down and don't let it get defeating. Let it say, like, last month is last month. Like, you shut the door on that and you focus now on the next month, because if you let that continue, you know, mentality wise, people sell better when they're positive and happy. When things are negative, you're going to watch your sales go even worse. So you have to be really careful as a leader, not to like come down on people, but instead say, here's why, here's what we're going to do. Let's find those couple metrics that give us hope, and let's put gasoline on those to move forward.
And I think that's why it's important to have monthly, quarterly, and annual goals, because you don't want to be sitting there at the end of January. Our annual goal, might as well give up. You know, at the end of February, say, okay, we're not looking good for the quarter, but let's get our March done. Let's get this March nailed so that at least one of these 3 months we did hit our goal. So that you're kind of turning on that positive note. Okay, here's where we're at. And then now we're in quarter 2. Let's put quarter 1 behind us and focus on hitting our goals for quarter 2.
So let's kind of wrap up incentives. I know we talked about it a little bit because we have to get to our big announcement. We want to get people back to their desks, obviously, yes. Right? I always think, too, you need carrots and sticks, right? So some people are motivated just by not getting in trouble. Now, I don't want this to be a negative thing, but you do need to say, hey, if we don't hit the quarterly goal, like, we're not going to go on a company trip, or, you know, we're not going to be able to do some of the things that we wanted to. You know, you will have some people that just sort of hold out. You know, it's like holding out because I want to live with paper my whole life. Holding out because I don't want to make renewal calls. Holding out because I'm not comfortable. And so some of these people, we need to drive a lot more attention in. We need to love them harder. But we also need to let them know that behavior is unacceptable. So you don't have to like publish the sticks, But I do think if someone is not participating like a team member, their behavior needs to be addressed. There needs to be write-ups and performance improvement plans because it's simply not fair to the rest of the team. And that one person has the ability to take you completely off track because other people are reaching out of their comfort zone. Other people are trying new things. And if this one person is allowed to continue in their current state, it's really to be like, well, why does she get to do it? Why does he get to do it? And that really hurts the agency culture. So you want your incentives to be both team and individual based, and team goals allow the team to help self-manage. So if you're struggling with the idea of how do I get it all to work, you have to think about a team goal because let the team try to hit the goal without you pushing so hard and pushing people up the mountain. Do you agree, Dave? Dave, I think we lost you there for a second. Oh, maybe we left him still. Well, while he's figuring out a little tech glitch. Okay.
Sorry.
So here's a sample. So here's a sample company goal. If the project is to hit 100% of renewal calls that are made each week, retention at 92%, policy count, and 70 new sold policies each month, as a company, if those are hit, maybe lunch is brought in, jeans day, fun activity, paint and wine nights are really popular. We had Excalibur Insurance in Canada. They actually did a group yoga class. That was their incentive. So think about something that continues to build teams, especially between personal and commercial lines, because as agencies get bigger, sometimes there's some strife there between producers and CSRs. Think about department goals. So maybe $150 monthly bonus if personal lines hit their goals and commercial lines hit their goals so that they can all work together as a little team as well. And then also think individual, maybe another $100 bonus if they make all their renewal calls, sell a certain number of accounts, reshop hit ratios. Again, you guys can have this slideshow. I just want to make sure we're cognitive of the amount of time that we have left. And we're always happy to talk with you guys if you want to kind of go through any of the incentive plans. I think Dave hit the nail on the head. These are samples, but you have to do what works best for your agency. I think, incentive plans are not just something that you can take off the shelf and say, hey, it worked here, it's going to work here. I've tried that my whole life, and it's blown up in my face almost every single time. So listen to your team and pick things that matter to them that are going to get the most results. So now we're on to the big conclusion, right? We're going to send you out after this copy of this so you get to see our smiling faces, and you can watch them anytime you like. The slides, as well as our goal setting guide. We actually have a PDF that you can use. You can watch this video, create your plan, and of course, if you need help, dun, 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 we are officially launching our end of year special today. And Dave, would you like to explain what this cute little adorable Santa puppy has in store for us?
Absolutely. So a couple of options on our training, coaching, and consulting side, which is most of the stuff we've been talking about today, with not the marketing. But we're doing 18% off the first payment. So you can pay in full and get 18% off the entire program. A lot of people, when we do similar programs like this, they'll pay half up so that they get the half off of or 18% off half of it. Or option two, just take 10% right off the top, and you can continue with our monthly or the other billing programs we have. On the branding and marketing side, agency appeal. This is where we do brand guides, websites, brand implementation. $500 off a brand guide, and another $1,000 off of a website. So some pretty good numbers, some pretty good incentives in there. And I think the cool thing about this too is that all that we require in order to take advantage of this is that we have the contract signed and we have the first payment by the end of the year. If you don't think that December is a good time to try this, you don't want to start January and February, but come March or April, this is something you're going to want to launch. Take advantage of the pricing today, lock it in, and we'll launch the program at any point that you want.
And I like to say, Dave, we're like the insurance policy on your performance for next year, right? So if you believe in insurance, by partnering up with us, you can look at our case studies, you can talk to agents, go ahead and make the investment right now, while you're trying to move some of the tax dollars around. Go and take your final co-op dollars too, by the way. Like, this is a great time of year to call your companies and say, like, hey, I got this. Can you help me here? And if you can do that, in addition to, go to our website under our pricing, there's what I call our state grant page. So we have a team member dedicated to calling all the states across the country. They have workforce training grants. Some states will actually compensate up to 75% of our services. So at the end of the program, when you prove that you've improved your workforce, they will reimburse you 75% of our training costs. So take a look at that. Definitely take a look at that, because that's a huge opportunity. Right, David? I know you've had some clients that have gone through that.
Yeah, we've had a number of clients use the workforce training programs. It's tremendous, and every state's a little different. So definitely check out our website, like Kelly said, or reach out to us, and we can kind of walk you through the program for your state.
So I'm going to leave you guys with this. We're going to email this out tomorrow. If you are interested, go to our website, fill out the contact us form, send us a chat through, the Zoom meeting, or when you get the email, just respond back to us. We will hop on it, at least get a meeting going so we can learn a little bit about your agency and get you to take advantage of some of these great things. But Dave, thank you so much for participating here with us today.
Thanks, Cal.
And guys out there, have a great year and watch for our email. If you didn't get it by the end of the week, please email me so we can get it to you. All right. Have a wonderful time.
We'll see you all in Vegas.